Did you find Miss Smith to give her thing back? Suntan lotion is good for me. You protect me. Character day tomorrow. Hunter, are you gonna do anything for character day tomorrow? Oh, I could turn on these lights now. That would be okay. Hi. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's not your fault. So somebody might do that here, but it's not like I can. Right. I know. Yeah, for sure. Every day I clean this desk, and by the end of the day, it's disgusting. There's so much stuff on it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have no one to blame but myself, but aha, yes. Why is Kayla emailing me, but she's not in the room yet? Oh, here she comes. Here she comes. Hi. How did I have 11 before? What did I do? 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, we're changing it to 13. Oh, Kayla, that email you just sent me got us out of last place.
You're welcome.
Which, like, we've been out of last place all day today. We've been solidly in 7th place, but now 11th grade is somehow first, which makes no sense because they have the fewest people. But I guess people did some TikTok dances at lunch.
Genesis got us some points.
Genesis did?
Yeah.
So mad at her. How dare she? I told her she shouldn't even participate. Very rude. Okay. So today we're going to read together aloud because we have our first little one-act play. Oh, our only little one-act play. We'll have another full-length play. And when we do the full-length play, we'll read some of it together, some of it on our own. But this play is only 9 pages, So we're just gonna read it together. I'm twinning with Chip today, by the way, so I participate too. Let me get this set up. Excuse me, email, disappear, please. Okay. Also, before we get started on reading this, your thesis statements were due yesterday. I'm trying to have them looked at and give feedback on them by tomorrow. We will, where is this? Your outline is due Thursday, so hopefully, I might actually move that to Friday just because, even though we have an early release day on Friday, if I'm not giving you feedback on your thesis until tomorrow, I want you to have a little bit more time with the outline, if that makes sense. When we get back from spring break, quarter 3 ends on that Thursday. So your essay is not technically, it's not going to go on quarter 3, it'll go on quarter 4. I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, or if you don't feel anything about it. I was thinking it was going to be in quarter 3, but just didn't work out that way, which is fine. That's fine. I might, but like while I'm thinking about it, I think I'm going to go ahead into assignments. I apologize too. I didn't realize I haven't put in grades for the where are you going, where have you been quiz or prompt. I just put in the quiz grades. I'll put in the prompts later on. What am I looking for? Trifles. No. Short story essay outline. That's what I'm looking for. And we're going to change that to a second. Oh, come on. This is dumb. I know. Okay, so that's now due Friday. I'll change it on here too. Whatever, who cares? Okay, so to find this play that we're going to read today, you would go into announcements, and it's right here. I'm going to pull it open too so we can just read it together. So this has 5 characters. And I don't remember who's like the most important or anything. The women are important, I know that. So we have George Henderson, the county attorney, Henry Peters, who is the sheriff, Lewis Hale, who is a neighboring farmer, Mrs. Peters, and Mrs. Hale. Could I get someone to read George Henderson?
I want to be Henry Peters.
Okay. Julius is going to be Henry Peters.
My brother's name is Henry.
Oh, it'd be crazy if your other brother's name was Peter.
No.
It'd be insane. That's very close.
That's true.
That's close.
How about a George Henderson?
I'm sorry, where is this?
This is in announcements.
Oh,
I'll do that.
Okay. It's called Trifles.
yes.
Yes.
Wait, so he's the county attorney, or is that a different person?
Yes, he is the county attorney. Okay. What about Lewis Hale? I'm totally good reading a part, but we gotta have you guys read some stuff.
I'll be
Yeah.
Lewis.
He's not technically in this class, so like he doesn't have to read. You can if you want to, Hunter, but okay. Mrs. Peters. Anyone want to do Mrs. Peters? I can do Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Hale. Madison, will you read Mrs. Hale? Okay. All right, and I'll do the little backgrounds and things. Yes, county. I don't know why it's listed as county attorney in the thing.
Miss Hales.
Yes.
Miss Hale.
I don't know why it's Kinsey. I don't know why it's listed as county attorney. I mean, it's the same thing. And you're listed as sheriff in the thing. The kitchen in the now abandoned farmhouse of John Wright, a gloomy kitchen and left without having been put in order. Unwashed pans under the sink, a loaf of bread outside the bread box, a dish towel on the table, other signs of incompleted work. At the rear, the outer door opens and the sheriff comes in, followed by the county attorney and Hale. The sheriff and Hale are men in middle life. The county attorney is a young man. All are much bundled up and go at once to the stove. They are followed by the two women. The sheriff's wife first. She is a slight, wiry woman, a thin, nervous face. Mrs. Hale is larger and would ordinarily be called more comfortable looking. I feel like that's an insult. But she is disturbed now and looks fearfully about as she enters. The women have come in slowly and stand close together near the door.
This feels good. Come up to the fire, ladies.
I'm not cold.
All right. With all that. Now, Mr. Hale, before we move things about, can you explain to Mr. Henderson just what you saw when you came here yesterday morning?
By the way, has anything been moved? Are things just as you left them yesterday? Wait.
It's just the same. When it dropped below zero last night, I thought I'd better send Frank out this morning to make a fire for us. No use getting pneumonia with a big queso. But I told him not to touch anything except the stove. And you know, Frank.
Somebody should have been left here yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. When I had to send Frank to Moore Center for that man who went crazy, I want you to know I had my hands full yesterday. I knew you could get back from, I almost said Obama. I knew you could get back from Omaha.
Omaha.
It's the capital O. I only ever see the space from Omaha by today, and as long as I went over everything here myself.
Well, Mr. Hale, tell just what happened when you came here yesterday morning.
1 second. Kinsey and Kayla and everyone, can y'all hear Julius okay?
Somewhat.
Yeah, kind of.
But you guys are like looking at, I'll just move over closer to y'all. And then, oh, oops. What? Hale is Mr. Hale. Yeah. Sorry about that. And that totally messed up literally everything in my life, but yes, okay. Hale. Was that Kayla? Was that you? I don't know. My speaker isn't working for some reason. 1 sec. Because I see that you're talking, but what's going on? Yeah. Yeah. Freaking A.
Yeah, you had the volume.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. Sorry. Can we start back at Hale?
Yeah. Okay. Harry and I had started to town with a load of potatoes. We came along the road from my place, and as I got here, I said, I'm going to see if I can get John Wright to go in with me on a party telephone. I spoke to Wright about it once before, and he put me off, saying folks talked too much anyway, and all he asked was peace and quiet. I guess you know about how much he talked himself, but I thought maybe if I went to the house and talked about it before his wife, though I said to Harry that I didn't know, as what his wife wanted made much difference to John.
Let's talk about that later, Mr. Hale. I don't want to talk about that, but tell now just what happened when you got to the house.
I didn't hear or see anything. I knocked at the door, and still it was quiet, all quiet inside. I knew they must be up. It was past 8 o'clock, so I knocked again, and I thought I heard somebody say, "Come in." I wasn't sure. I'm not sure yet, but I opened the door. This door, and two women were still standing, and there in that rocker, Mrs. Wright.
What was she doing?
She was rocking back and forth. She had her apron in her hand and was kind of cleaning it.
And how did she look?
Well, she looked queer.
How do you mean queer?
Well, as if she didn't know what she was going to do next and kind of done up.
How did she seem to feel about your coming?
Why, I don't think she minded one way or another. She didn't pay much attention, I said. How do, Mrs. Wright? How do, Mrs. Wright? It's cold, ain't it? And she said, "Is it?" It went on kind of pleating at her apron. Well, I was surprised. Didn't ask me to come up to the stove or to sit down, but just sat there, not even looking at me. So I said, "I want to see John." And then she laughed. I guess you would call it a laugh. I thought of Harry and the team outside. So I said a little sharp, Can I see John?" "No," she says, kind of dull like. "Ain't he home?" Says I. "Yes," says she. "He's home. Then why can't I see him?" I asked her out of patience. "'Cause he's dead." She. "Dead?" says I. She just nodded her head, not getting a bit excited, but rocking back and forth. "Why, where is he?" says I, not knowing what to say. She just pointed upstairs like that. Uh, I got I got up with the idea of going up there. I walked from there to here. Then I says, "Why, what did he die of?" "He died of a rope. He died of a rope round his neck," she said, and just went on pleading at her apron. Well, I went out and called Harry. I thought I might need help. We went upstairs, and there he was lying.
I think I'd rather have you go into that upstairs where you can point it all out. Just go on now with the rest of the story.
Well, my first thought was to get that rope off. But Harry, he went up to him and he said, "No, he's dead all right, and we better not touch anything." So we went back downstairs. She was still sitting that same way. "Has anybody been notified?" I asked. "No," says she, unconcerned. Who did this? Who did this, Miss Wright?" said Harry. He said it businesslike, and she stopped pleating of her apron. "I don't know," she says. "You don't know?" says Harry. "No," says she. "Weren't you sleeping in the bed with him?" says Harry. "Yes," says she, "but I was on the inside." "What?" "I was on the inside. Somebody slipped a rope around his neck and strangled him, and you didn't wake up?" says Harry. "I didn't wake up," she said after him. We must have looked as if we didn't see how that could be, for after a minute she said, "I sleep sound." Harry was going to ask her more questions, but I said maybe we ought to let her tell her story first to the coroner or the sheriff. So Harry went fast as he could to the Rivers place, where there's a telephone.
And what did Mrs. Wright do when she knew that you had gone for the coroner?
She moved from that chair to this one over here and just sat there with her hands held together and looking down. I got a feeling that I ought to make some conversation, so I said I had come in to see if John wanted to put in a telephone. And at that she started to laugh, and then she stopped and looked at me, scared. I don't know, maybe it wasn't scared. I wouldn't like to say it was. Soon Harry got back, and then Dr. Lloyd came, and you, Mr. Peters. And so I guess that's all I know that you don't.
Let's pause for one quick second. This is sort of creepy and weird a little bit. Maybe not creepy, but I think it would be creepy if we put on a stage production of it, because you would just have like this woman kind of rocking her chair and it's like, "You can't talk to my husband, he's dead." And like when they're like, "Didn't you wake up?" and she just says, "I sleep sound." Like I feel like that's really creepy. And also it just kind of calls into question, like, how did this person die? clearly he has been strangled, but like she was right there next to him. She didn't notice anything. It's very weird. I think that CSI would have a field day with it.
I guess we'll go upstairs first and then out to the barn and around there. You're convinced that there was nothing important here, nothing that would point to any motive?
The kitchen things.
The county attorney, after again looking around the kitchen, opens the door of a cupboard closet, gets up on a chair, looks on a shelf, and pulls his hand away sticky. I know.
Here's a nice mess.
Oh, her fruit. It did freeze. She would worry about that when it turned so cold. She said the fire would go out and her jars would break.
Whoa, can you beat the woman? Wait, what?
And not can you beat the one? Can you like? Can you like? Can you top that? Like, can you beat the what? Yeah, like you can't win over
beat the
them.
women. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, can you beat the women? Help for murder and worry about her preserves.
I guess before we're through, she may have something more serious than preserves to worry about.
Hail.
Sorry, I lost. Well, women are used to worrying over trifles.
Hey, that's the name of the play.
And yet, for all their worries, what would we do without the ladies? Ooh. Dirty towels, not much of a housekeeper. Would you say, ladies? Oh, did she say something? I can't.
Yeah, it's probably hard to hear. Also, I wish this thing would shut off.
Yeah,
It's so annoying.
yeah,
I know, I can't get it to sit back in there. I tried to mess with the thing, like with a screwdriver or something. I couldn't get it to close. I don't know what to do. I hope that's not contributing to how cold it is in here, but I don't really know.
To be
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, sorry.
to be sure, and yet I know there are some Dickens County farmhouses which do not have such roller towels. Ah, loyal to your sex, I see, but you and Miss Wright were neighbors. I suppose you were friends too? And why was that? You didn't like her? Yes. No, it's not cheerful. I shouldn't say she had the homemaking instinct. You mean that they didn't get on very well? I'd like to talk more of that little later. I want to get the lay of the things upstairs now.
Oh, I suppose anything is pretty valuable. I don't know. Anything that's here, that will be all right. What? She was, oh my God, she was so, she was taking some for, and a few little things. Nothing such a very.
Yes, but I would like to see what you take, Miss Peters, and keep an eye out for anything that might be used to us.
Yes, Mrs. Henderson. And so just to clarify, like Mrs. Wright, I guess, the farmer's wife, is being held in prison. And they're like putting together some stuff for her. Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Peters are putting some stuff together to take to her. So that's why he's saying like whatever she does will be okay. Like we're just gonna try to get a few little things for her, and it'll be fine. Like whatever we do to her house will be fine. All right. So the women listen to the men's steps on the kitchen and then look about. Oh, sorry. The men's steps on the stairs and then look about. Of course, it's no more than their duty. She had bread set. Sourdough starter. I don't know. It's fine. Outside, about to sit down, realizes what chair it is. I guess like the chair that she had been sitting in when she was being creepy. Well, I must get those things from the front room closet. You coming with me, Mrs. Hale? You can help me carry them. My, it's cold in there. She said she wanted an apron. Funny thing to want, for there isn't much to get you dirty in jail, goodness knows, but I suppose just to make her feel more natural. She said they was in the top drawer in this cupboard. Yes, here. And then her little shawl that always hung behind the door. Yes, here it is. Yes, Mrs. Hale? In a frightened voice. Oh, I don't know. That's my frightened voice. In a low voice. Mr. Peter says it looks bad for her. Mr. Henderson is awful sarcastic in a speech, and he'll make fun of her saying she didn't wake up. No, it's strange. It must have been done awful crafty, and still, they say it was such a funny way to kill a man, rigging it all up like that. Mr. Henderson said coming out that what was needed for the case was a motive, something to show anger or sudden feeling. But Mrs. Hale, the law is the law. Well, I don't know what a tippet is, but she was piecing a quilt. The sheriff comes back in, followed by Hale and the county attorney. The men laugh, and the women look abashed, ashamed. That is mean, though. Like, these men are being awful. Like, so they're just making conversation. I wonder if she was going to quilt it or not it. I wonder if she was going to quilt it or not it. What a stupid thing to worry about. So mean.
Frank's fire didn't do much up there, did it? Well, let's go out to the barn and get that cleared up.
Of course, they've got awful important things on their minds. And then she pulls it a knot and rips it. Oh, what are you doing, Mrs. Hale? I don't think we ought to touch such things. Yes, Mrs. Hale? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if she was nervous. I sometimes so awful queer when I'm just tired. Well, I must get these things wrapped up. They may be through sooner than we think. I wonder where I can find a piece of paper and string. Why, here's a bird cage. Did she have a bird, Mrs. Hale? Seems funny to think of a bird here, but she must have had one, or why would she have a cage? I wonder what happened to it. No, she didn't have a cat. She's got that feeling some people have about cats, being afraid of them. My cat got in her room and she was real upset and asked me to take it out. Why? Oh, something just happened. Why, look at this door. It's broke. One hinge is pulled apart. Why, yes. But I'm awfully glad you came with me, Mrs. Hale. It'd be lonesome for me sitting here alone. But of course, you were awful busy, Mrs. Hale. Your house and your children. Well, you mustn't reproach yourself, Mrs. Hale. Somehow we just don't see how it is with other folks until something comes up. Not to know him. I've seen him in town. They say he was a good man. I don't know, unless they got sick and died. Not till they brought her yesterday. Well, I think that's a real nice idea, Mrs. Hale. There couldn't possibly be any objection to it, could there? Now, just what would I take? I wonder if her patches are in here and her things. Why, this isn't her scissors. It's the bird. Ooh. Somebody wrung its neck. Horror! And the steps are heard outside, and that's important. Mrs. Hale slips the box under the quilt pieces, so like the men are not going to see the bird.
Well, ladies, have you decided whether she was going to quilt it or not it?
First of all, stop making fun of us. Second of all, we think she was going to knot it.
Well, that's interesting. I'm sure. Has the bird flown? Is there a cat?
Well, not now. They're superstitious, you know. They leave.
No sign at all of anyone having come from the outside, their own rope. Now let's go up again and go over it piece by piece. It would have to have been someone who knew just the.
And I'm sitting down. We're trying not to look at each other and can't, whatever. When I was a girl, my kitten, there was a boy took a hatchet. God.
Oh my God.
And before my eyes, and before I could get there, if they hadn't held me back, I would have hurt him.
Oh, she.
We don't know who killed Bird. It was an awful thing that was done in his house that night, Mrs. Hale, killing a man while he slept, slipping a rope around his neck to choke the life out of him. We don't know who killed him. We don't know. I know what stillness is. Oh God, this is so sad. When we homesteaded in Dakota and my first baby died after he was 2 years old and me with no other then. I know what stillness is. The law has got to punish crime, Mrs. Hale. We mustn't take on. The husband is dead, yeah. Why are they saying what? The wife is in prison, so they're taking stuff to her. But like did she kill her husband? Maybe because he didn't let her have anything nice, like including the bird, and he was just mean. It's a good thing the men couldn't hear us. Wouldn't they just laugh, getting all stirred up over a little thing like a dead canary, as if that could have anything to do with. Wouldn't they laugh?
No, Peters, it's perfectly clear except a reason for doing it. But you know, juries, when it comes to women, if there was some definite thing, something to just show, something to make a story about, a thing that would connect with this strange way of doing it.
Well, I've got the team around. Pretty cold out there.
I'm going to stay here a while by myself. You can send Frank out for me, can't you? I want to go over everything. I'm not satisfied. We can't do better. I'm not satisfied that we can't do better. Oh, I guess they're not very dangerous things the ladies have picked out. No, Mrs. Peters doesn't need supervising. For that matter, a sheriff's wife is married to the law. Ever think of it that way, Mrs. Peters?
Not just that way. George Hale.
Oh, windows.
Hale goes outside. The sheriff follows the county attorney into the other room. Mrs. Hale rises, hands tight together, looking intensely at Mrs. Peters, whose eyes make a slow turn, finally meeting Mrs. Hale's. A moment, Mrs. Hale holds her, then her own eyes point the way to where the box is concealed with the bird in it. Suddenly, Mrs. Peters throws back quilt pieces and tries to put the box in the bag she's wearing. It's too big. She opens the box, starts to take the bird out, can't touch it, goes to pieces, stands there helpless. Sound of a knob turning in the other room. Mrs. Hale snatches the box and puts it in the pocket of her big coat.
Well, Henry, at least we found out that she was not going to quilt it. She was going to, what is it you call it, ladies?
The end. I can't remember if this came first or if the short story came first, but there's like another version of this called A Jury of Her Peers, and it's just like a different adaptation of this. But I think this is a really interesting I think this is a really interesting short play. Um, one thing that I really like about it is the way the title kind of connects and reflects. It's called Trifles. They have that line earlier on about how like women are always so concerned with trifles, just little small things that don't matter. Um, and the whole time the men are like making fun of them, talking about like the way that you knot or quilt or whatever, and they're just like, ugh, women with the silly things they think about. But because they thought about these things, the women are the ones who really find out and are able to piece together why this woman would have murdered her husband. Whereas the men just keep looking for like obvious things. Um, the men just keep looking for obvious things and they manage to miss it completely. They're like, the one thing we don't have is a motive. Like, for all intents and purposes, it seems like like they were in a fairly normal marriage. And because the women look for these small things and like are actually paying attention to what she would want, like the things that she would want to have with her in prison, they're able to unearth this bird and figure out what happened. So that's pretty interesting. Um,
So did the wife kill the husband?
yeah, the wife killed the husband, which like almost had to be the case because there was no one else there.
Yeah.
But he was asleep next to him. They used a piece of rope from in there. And I also think one of those like little details that probably don't like make it into your consciousness the first time you read it is that she used a rope when there was a gun in the house. Like a gun would obviously have been easier, but there's this kind of parallel thing with him having strangled the bird and she strangled him.
Mhm.
Not just because she like loved this bird so much, but because he didn't let her have anything. He didn't let her be happy. The one bit of happiness she had was this bird, and he strangled it.
Mhm.
They even say that like she used to sing, and he killed that too. She doesn't sing anymore. They never had kids, so it's just like a quiet, lonely life, which is
Ew.
very sad.
Sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. I can, you know, I guess I can kind of see why she murdered her husband, and more importantly, the characters in the book or in the play understand why she murdered her husband because they have the chance to tell the men what happened, and they choose not to. They, particularly Mrs. Hale, like keeps the bird secret, and they say at the end that because they don't have a motive, they might not be able to actually charge her or prosecute her. And even if they did, juries tend to uh, be more sympathetic towards women. And if they don't have that evidence, if they don't have the actual motive, then she's likely to get off. Not that I would murder my husband if I had one, but like, I get it. Yeah, they're trying to protect her, which is cool. I think that this is a cool play because there's so much stuff to happen and so much going on like below the surface in a very short play. I mean, the whole thing is only 9 pages, but there's a lot to it. Let me just take a quick look because I think the prompt is looking like it's kind of weird. Assignment. Okay. So the thing about the prompt, Isaiah had asked me about the textbook because this prompt says answer one of the 5 questions from the textbook, and obviously we don't use a textbook. But let me see if I can find the questions before I let you guys go, because otherwise I might have to kind of make something up. Trifles. 11:55. Ooh, some pretty stuff in this book. I think it's really interesting. Next week, we're gonna look at some like how to read theater type of thing. And it's like, well, why did they have us read this before we read the how to read theater stuff? I don't have an answer to that, but I do what they ask me to. Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna watch a video, which is pretty short. I think it's like under 10 minutes, pretty sure. And then I'll give you time to do the prompt. And I'm fixing the prompt right now. I found the questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and write them in here, but it'll take me just a few minutes. So if you guys check back in just a bit, it'll be correct. There's two things though. One of them is like answer one or more of the 5 questions from the textbook. And I actually only have 4 questions. So, and the second thing is to evaluate the performance that we're going to look at tomorrow. So if you want to do that one, you won't be able to get a head start on it, and that's fine. But other than that, it's the same as any prompt, 150 to 200 words. If you do the like evaluation of the video we're gonna watch tomorrow, you don't have to worry about like citing stuff. But that's pretty much it. Any questions? We only have like 5 minutes left, so good timing today.
No, ma'am.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and fix that prompt, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget your character. Bye.